Can I ask you a question? What would you go after if you knew you couldn't fail? Maybe you'd finally start that business. Maybe you'd apply for the job you keep telling yourself you're not ready for. Maybe you'd go back to school. Maybe you'd create something. Maybe you'd leave something comfortable and try something you've wanted for years. Most of us have something we think about when life gets quiet. And we tell ourselves we'll do it eventually. When we're ready. When we have more money. When we have more time. When we're more confident. When the timing feels right. But I think sometimes we're waiting for something that may never come. A guarantee. We want to know the risk will be worth it before we take it. We want to know we'll succeed before we begin. And life doesn't usually give us that deal. At some point, you have to decide whether the possibility of failure is enough to keep you from discovering what's possible. Because yes, you might fail. Let's not pretend otherwise. You might try something and be terrible at it. You might walk into an interview and not get the job. You might spend months working on something that doesn't succeed. You might make something you're proud of and discover nobody cares. You might choose a path and realize 2 years later that it was the wrong one. That's possible. But there's something else that's possible too. You might get better. You might learn. You might meet someone who changes everything. You might discover an opportunity you couldn't see from where you were standing. And you might find out that you're capable of something you've spent years convincing yourself you couldn't do. But you'll never know from the starting line. There's a reason I like the story of Thomas Edison. When people talk about the development of the practical light bulb, they often talk about the many experiments that didn't work before a successful design emerged. Think about how differently we view those attempts today. We know what eventually happened, so we call them experiments. We call them part of the process. We call them steps towards something that worked. But imagine being in the middle of those attempts without knowing the ending. Attempt after attempt. Something goes wrong. Try something different. Still doesn't work. Adjust it. Try again. That's what failure feels like when you're actually living through it. There's no music playing in the background. Nobody is telling you that you're 3 attempts away from the breakthrough. You don't know. And that's why continuing is difficult. Because success stories only make sense when we hear them backward. Your own life has to be lived forward. There's another example from baseball. Reggie Jackson became famous for hitting home runs, especially when the pressure was high. But he also accumulated more than 2,500 strikeouts during his major league career. Thousands of times, he stepped up to the plate and didn't get the result he wanted. And yet that's not the only thing his career became. Think about what that means. You can't spend your whole life wanting the home run while refusing to risk the strikeout. You have to swing. That's the deal. And I think some of us haven't been swinging lately. We've been thinking, planning, watching, preparing, waiting. We tell ourselves we're being careful, but sometimes, underneath all that preparation, we're simply afraid. Afraid of looking foolish. Afraid of being rejected. Afraid that we'll try our best and discover our best isn't enough. So we protect ourselves. We don't apply. We don't start. We don't tell anybody about the idea. We don't take the chance. And because we never fail, we get to stay comfortable. But we also stay exactly where we are. Maybe you don't need another year of thinking about it. Maybe you need your first attempt. And I mean your real first attempt. Not another video about how to do it. Not another notebook filled with plans. Not another Monday when you're supposedly going to start. Do something. And it doesn't have to be reckless. Taking a risk doesn't mean ignoring your responsibilities. It doesn't mean quitting your job tonight because you had an inspirational thought. It means doing something that moves you from thinking into trying. Send 1 application. Make 1 phone call. Take 1 class. Create 1 page. Practice for 1 hour. Ask 1 person for advice. Put your work somewhere another human being can actually see it. Give yourself the opportunity to hear no. Because eventually, one of those answers might be yes. And when something doesn't work, don't immediately turn the result into an identity. You failed at something. That doesn't mean you are a failure. Those are completely different statements. One is an event, the other is a label. And labels can keep people trapped for years. There's an old 9-dot puzzle that illustrates this surprisingly well. You're given 9 dots arranged in a square and asked to connect them with a small number of straight lines without lifting the pencil. Most people naturally keep their lines inside the imaginary boundary around the dots, but the solution requires extending some of the lines beyond that boundary. The boundary was never actually there. We created it. And sometimes I wonder how many boundaries in our lives are like that. Nobody told you that you had to have your entire career figured out by 25. Nobody promised that your first plan had to be your final plan. Nobody said you couldn't learn something new at 30, 40, 50, or later. Nobody said your first attempt had to impress anyone. Sometimes the box you're trying to escape isn't even real. You just haven't stepped outside it yet. But there's another side to dreaming that doesn't sound nearly as exciting. Goals. Because dreaming big feels amazing. Goals turn the dream into work. I want to write a book is a dream. I'll write for 30 minutes every morning is a goal. I want a better career is a dream. I'll apply for 3 positions this week is a goal. I want to build something of my own is a dream. What am I doing tomorrow at 7 o'clock is where the dream starts becoming real. And then comes consistency. That's where a lot of motivation disappears. Because the first day feels different. You have energy. You've made a decision. You can imagine where this is going. Day 27 doesn't always feel like that. Day 27 might just be you doing the work. Nobody applauds, nobody knows, nothing dramatic happens, and you do it anyway. That's how things get built. Not through one enormous moment of motivation, but through ordinary days when you keep your promise to yourself. And you're going to mess some of those days up. Fine. Come back tomorrow. Consistency doesn't mean never missing. It means missing doesn't become quitting. And maybe your direction changes along the way. That's okay too. Life isn't always a straight road. You might start studying one thing and discover you're meant for something completely different. You might enter one career and realize another kind of work brings out something in you that you didn't know was there. You might fail at the thing you were certain you were supposed to do. And that failure might force you to look somewhere you never would have looked otherwise. Sometimes failure doesn't just teach you how to reach your destination. Sometimes it helps you realize you've been heading toward the wrong destination. That's why I don't want you to be terrified of getting it wrong. Get something wrong, learn, adjust, keep moving. Because standing still doesn't protect you from regret. It just gives regret more time to grow. And there's one thought I want you to sit with, not to scare you, just to make this real. Imagine reaching a much later chapter of your life and remembering the things you always meant to do, the idea you kept postponing, the talent you never developed, the place you wanted to go, the thing you wanted to create, the person you wanted to help. And imagine realizing that some of them weren't impossible. You were simply too afraid to find out. I don't think the goal is to reach the end of life having succeeded at everything. Nobody does. I'd rather reach it knowing I participated. I tried, I made mistakes, I changed direction, I looked ridiculous a few times, I heard no, I failed, I learned, and when something mattered enough, I gave it a real chance. Because what you have right now matters. Maybe you don't have a lot of money. Maybe you don't have connections. Maybe you don't have some extraordinary talent everyone notices the moment you walk into a room. But maybe you're patient. Maybe you're good with people. Maybe you can make someone laugh when they desperately need it. Maybe you're creative. Maybe you understand technology. Maybe you can teach. Maybe you can build. Maybe you listen. Maybe you're the person who doesn't disappear when things get difficult. Whatever you have, the question isn't whether it's impressive enough. The question is what you're going to do with it. That's where I want this conversation to change. Because we've talked enough about failure. Now let's talk about you. There is something you've been thinking about. I don't know what it is, but you probably do. And maybe you've spent enough time waiting. You don't need permission from this video. You don't need a perfect plan. And you definitely don't need to feel fearless. You need a first move. That's it. One move. Do something today that makes tomorrow different. Open the document. Make the call. Submit the application. Start practicing. research the course, write the idea down and turn it into a plan. Whatever your first step is, take it, and then take another one. And when you fail, because eventually something won't work, don't run back to the starting line. Look at what happened, learn from it, change something, then go again. Remember Edison and all those experiments. Remember Reggie Jackson, walking back to the plate after another strikeout. Nobody gets the guarantee first. You take the swing first. You do the experiment first. You take the risk first. And only afterward do you find out what it can become. So stop asking yourself whether you're guaranteed to succeed. You're not. Ask yourself something better. Is this dream worth an attempt? If the answer is yes, then give it one. And don't give it the weakest version of you. Don't spend 6 months saying you tried when you gave it 6 afternoons. Give it effort. Give it consistency. Give yourself time to become better at it. You might surprise yourself. And even if the road changes, at least you'll be moving. That's what I hope you remember when this video ends. You don't have to fall backward every time life knocks you down. You can learn something on the way down. You can get back up knowing more. You can take the disappointment, the rejection, the mistake, the embarrassing first attempt, and use it. Fail forward. Not because failure feels good, not because every failure guarantees success, but because if you're going to stumble while chasing something that matters to you, make sure you come out of it with something you can carry into the next attempt. So what are you going to do? Not someday. Not when you're finally confident. What is the dream you would regret never giving a real chance? Think about it. Because maybe the bigger risk isn't failing. Maybe it's reaching a point in your life where you realize you could have tried, but you never did. Tell me that dream in the comments. Not the safe answer. The one you keep thinking about when nobody else is around. And if these gentle talks give you something worth carrying into your day, subscribe and join me for the next one. Now don't just think about that dream. Give it a chance.